in Facebook and YouTube. This is Ruben and Veronica Escalona with Red Alpha Custom Prints with another live episode of the Red Alpha Mugshot Monday podcast. For those of you who are new to the show, we want to just give you kind of a brief overview of what we're trying to do here with this particular podcast. Every Monday, we want to be your local source for everything that's going on here in the Abilene community and surrounding areas. Obviously, if we're serving customers that are outside of that local community, we're going to talk about them. We're going to give them shout outs. And also, we're going to talk about everything that's going on behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, in the middle of the scenes, Red Alpha. For those of you guys who maybe don't know who we are the owners and operators of Red Alpha Custom Prints. We're a local print shop based in Abilene, Texas, and we provide a wide range of print services, anything from business cards to window wraps. So not quite A to Z, but really close, right? And so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to be able to serve our community better when it comes to their printing needs. So if you need something printed, whether it be a banner, whether it be business cards, a sign, vehicle wraps, trailer wraps, anything like that, we want to be your print shop. Just give us a call and then we can work things out that way, right? But it cannot be a Red Alpha Mugshot Monday podcast if we're not talking about the coffee that we're drinking and showcasing the coffee mugs that we're sipping out of. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know if you're like me, but I put a little bit of thought into the coffee mug that I drink out of, right? Sometimes I need something that is going to lift me up a little bit more than the caffeine that I'm drinking, right? And so the coffee is always going to be strong, but sometimes the message within the coffee mug has to be one that kind of inspires me for that day. So I don't know if I'm the only one that's like that, but I do that. I look at it, and this morning I had to grab the best grandpa ever mug, right? Man, that's motivation right there. I can go ahead and sign off, right, and just go out my day and kick some butt all day long, right? But one of the reasons why we are in business is so that we can spend time with our grandkids, and we had a plan to go out to Lubbock to see one of our grandsons out there, and man, we weren't able to make it happen because we just had some work that needed to be done, and I hate doing that, but we rescheduled for another 2 weeks. We'll be out there, and then we'll make up for what we weren't able to do this past weekend. But yeah, so this is my coffee mug, and if you notice, my wife and I we're matching. So I think
twinning.
We're twinning today, and in more than one way, right? We're twinning with our coffee mugs and with our shirts, and I'll talk a little bit more about the shirts here in a little bit. But what type of coffee mug do you go to on a Monday morning? Is that something that you ever think about, like, it's Monday, let me get this Monday started, so I better have some strong coffee, and let me go to my favorite coffee mug. Do you ever do that? Or
I do. Sometimes like you said, it's what my mood, I guess, in that day.
Yeah.
I've got several that I like, different types of shows and colors.
Yep.
And then obviously the ones that our kids give us, best grandma, mm-hmm. best grandpa. We've got another set like best grandma and grandpa too. So
yeah, so that's twice. That's two votes from mm-hmm. two different families.
Mm-hmm.
Within our little family that have voted us best grandpa and best grandpa ever.
Don't go looking for one of these mugs because they don't exist.
That's right. And so if you're not the best grandpa ever, if you're the second best, then you're either number one or no one remembers you, right? So I feel sorry for all the grandparents out there that are not the best grandpa ever or the best grandma ever. I feel sorry for that, but we are the best ever. And so, there's just we're undisputed champions, right? And so today we're working on continuing our legacy of being the best grandma and grandpa ever. And so, don't get mad at us. Just try to get better. maybe one of these days, one of these years, you'll be the best, and then we'll be competing with you to try to get our belt back, right? And so we were going through the weekend. We did some work, and we had some some orders that needed to go out, and so on the weekend we were already planning on watching the UFC fight, right? And so we had that planned, and so whenever we watch a UFC fight, we kind of go through, like, man, we got to have some Buffalo Wild Wings, we got to have some snacks or something like that, and so we definitely did some of that, and but before I get into the show, I wanted to do a local shout out, right? This is something that I've been meaning to do on the podcast, just to kind of shout out companies that either are doing business with us or a new company that we met, and just show some love to the people who are out there in our community, right? So the first local community local shout out goes to Farmhouse Abbey. Now, I first heard about them last week during our Behind the X's and O live stream, and the folks with Not Included, they mentioned that there was a coffee food truck out there that that hosts in different places, and that they had basically agreed to show up at the Saturday meetups with the car Not Included Car Club. And so they were telling me that those guys, Farmhouse Abbey, showed up, and that the coffee was good, and it was just a good time. It's something that they're trying to grow. It's called Cars and Coffee, right? And so I was like, man, I'm not much of a car guy, but I'm a coffee guy. So it's like, if you're a coffee guy, you can come out there for the coffee, right? And so shout out to Farmhouse Abbey, because you're bringing two communities together, right? You're bringing, obviously the Not Included is bringing the car people, but then Farmhouse Abbey can bring the coffee people. So I feel included there, right? Mm-hmm. So even though it's not included, we're included, right? And so I think whenever they post up at the next meetup with the for Not Included, if the Farmhouse Abbey is up there, we're going to show up, and we're going to be coffee enthusiasts, right? Maybe we'll even bring our custom coffee mugs out there, because maybe we don't have a car show, but we can have a coffee mug show, yeah, right? For sure. And man, that might be something we could do. Farmhouse Abbey, if you're listening, let us know if y'all want to do a trade show revolving around coffee. You got some coffee enthusiasts right here in us, and we'll definitely show you the love. So I never met them face to face, right? It was just I touched base with them on Facebook Messenger, and I said, hey, I was referred to you by the folks with Not Included Car Club, and I just wanted to touch base with you right here and see where you guys are setting up this weekend, because we have a podcast on Monday called the Red Alpha Mugshot Monday Podcast, where we talk about coffee mugs, what we do on the weekend. And if I can find a local coffee place to give a shout out, that would just make it perfect, right? And so they said we're not setting up anywhere this week, maybe next week, but feel free to give us a shout out, and then next time that we post, let us know, whenever you come, and the first coffee is on us, right? So guess what? I'm looking forward to that. Mm-hmm, yeah, I'm looking forward to that, because I said, no, you don't have to do that. No, I want to do that. And so I'm not going to hold back your blessing, because what I'm hoping is that when you give me that coffee mug, it's going to bring 100 customers to you, and then just because you gave me a cup of coffee, and then another 100 customers just because you gave a free coffee to my wife. So if you're connected with us and you're not already connected with the Farmhouse Abbey, go to their Facebook page, go to find them on on TikTok, find them on YouTube, wherever it is that you're scrolling this morning, and go check them out. Let them know that Ruben and Veronica with Red Alpha Custom Prints referred you to them. Buy up all their coffee, commit to showing up wherever they're showing up, and then we can just be this one happy community, right? That's one of the things. That's one of the I guess the main mission of this podcast is on Monday. We want to give you kind of like an early start, right? Early start to a good week, right? Everybody's talking about thank God it's Friday, but for the longest I've had a thank God it's Monday, right? Thank God it's Monday because God created today too. He didn't just create Fridays, right? And so we look forward to having this podcast because it gives us an opportunity to meet new people, that are just scrolling, and hopefully we talk about something that will stop the scroll, and you'll say, let me listen to these guys and let me see, these two people that got the cool t-shirts on. Let me see what that's all about. I want to talk to them. Oh, they like coffee? Yes, I like coffee too. And then we could just be this one big happy family. Shout out to Farmhouse Abbey. That's one of our local shout outs. And for the next local shout out, I wanted to kind of bring to your attention something that I saw online. Did you see the video that was circulating this weekend? I guess a family that was, they were sightseeing at Yellowstone Park, right? And this bison, is it bison or buffalo?
It was a bison.
A bison? What's the difference between a bison and a buffalo? I don't know.
Never.
Hey, Cody, if you're listening, Cody with Camp Abel and the Buffalo Run. What is the difference between a bison and a buffalo? If you're tuning in, send us a message. My wife is checking out the chat. What is the difference between a bison and a buffalo? So I'm going to call it a bison, right? So the bison was just kind of chilling while the it was a 65-year-old man and I guess his daughter or his wife, I'm not sure, and so they were taking pictures. They were doing sightseeing stuff, and so the bison said, "Hey, I didn't give you permission to take a picture, and you better not post that on social media," right? I mean, that's what it looked like, right? He got up. He was just chilling. He got up and he started running at that man, right? And you could have put a circus, theme song to it. You could have put the theme song to Benny Hill. It was hilarious, but it was scary at the same time because this man was running for his life. Well, guess what? The bison finally caught up to the man, and then whenever he rammed him, he made him fly up in the air. I don't know, 10, 15 feet in the air, 8 feet in the air. I thought he was going to launch him into the universe, out there in the atmosphere or whatever. And but man, it was funny. It was funny. Did you guys see that? I mean, I was looking at it. That's one of those things where you can sit there and watch it on repeat, just over and over and over. And just, I think I laughed probably like 10 times. And not that I'm insensitive, right? It's just I started thinking of putting myself in that position. I was like, man, when I'm 65 years old, I want to be able to outrun a bison, right? I don't want to I don't want it to be the butt end of a viral video because I got launched into orbit, by a bison when all I wanted to do was take some cool pictures and post them on social media, right? I want to be able to do that, and then I want to be able to escape from the bison. The bison, so you don't even have to be the fastest person. You just need to be faster than the slowest person, right? It just so happened that this guy was the slowest person because where was his daughter? Was it his daughter?
It was a grandson.
Oh.
His grandson.
Oh, I thought it was a girl. Anyway, so where was his grandson? His grandson should have been like the clowns at the rodeo. Hey, come over here. And no, his grandson was gone, right? And so it was all up to the grandfather. He was left on his own to try to get around. I hope he's all right. But this reminds me, and this is actually I guess a second local shout out, right? And so I was scrolling through Facebook on my stories and reels like I always do, and I came across a video from a good customer of ours and a friend, Abe Walzer. He is the owner of Alpha Aesthetics here in Abilene, Texas, and he was promoting a new program that's called the Age Well program, right? So if you're not connected with Abe Walzer or Alpha Aesthetics, connect with them and see what that's all about. But from the clip that I saw, he was saying, we're told that, getting older and getting weaker and getting slower is just part of life, right? But the truth is that it's not all the case. We don't all age the same way. Some of us age a little bit better than others. Genetics has something to do with it, but your lifestyle definitely has something to do with it. And if you want to be the type of person that can go to Yellowstone, right, and take a picture of a bison or a buffalo, whatever part of town you're from, right? You want to take a picture with your grandson, take a picture of a bison at Yellowstone, and you want to post it on social media, just because that's your God-given right, and you don't want to have to be run down by whatever this 1,000-pound bison. Get with Abe at Alpha Aesthetics so that way he can show you what exercises you need to do to be able to do a spin move or juke or do something. I would have juked that bison right out of his horns. I would have shook this way, and his horns would have just fell that way because he was like, man, I just got juked out by that guy. That's because I played football growing up, right? Even though it was Pop Warner football, but I still remember. Shout out to my local Bucks. Anybody from the Bucks tuning in? That's the Pop Warner football team that I used to play in with the Bucks, right? And so, man, I was good back then. I was young. I was a running back, a wide receiver, and a quarterback, all on the same time, right? All at the same time. I throw the ball to myself, and I tackle myself, and then I hike the ball to myself. I was a one-man team back then, man. Yeah, number 80, what was my number 80 or something? I can't even remember my number, so long ago. But man, I want to be the type of person that ages well, right? All jokes aside, I don't really picture myself, running from a bison, but I do picture myself chasing after my grandsons, right? And I've had some experience with that. And I'll tell you what, those grandkids have unlimited amount of energy. I mean, could just run all day long, all day long. Just ask my son-in-law and my daughter. Ask, with our oldest grandson. He just, from the time he wakes up to the time he wakes up early and he goes to bed late, right? From start to finish, man, he is running. So it takes a team. It takes a team to raise a grandson, right?
Yeah,
it's crazy. It's crazy because back in the day we were doing it on our own.
Yeah.
Right? And so it takes a team. It takes mom, it takes dad, it takes grandma, it takes grandpa. All the family needs to come together to raise these kids in the right way. So the good family, not the toxic family. If you're toxic, stay to yourself, right? But if you're healthy, you got your stuff together, help raise some of these grandkids, right? That's my little mental health plug-in, right? But yeah, so for local shout out, give old Alpha Aesthetics a call, sign up, become a member of the gym, talk to Abe about the Age Well program and say, what's this all about? Ruben with Red Alpha Custom Prints was talking about that you can help me train so that I can outrun a bison, right? Yes. You can outrun a bison if you talk to Abe Walzer. I'm actually going to call him and say, hey, can you teach me how to outrun a bison? And then I'm going to see if we can't get a bison, and then I'm going to outrun him, just so that you guys can see that it can be done, right? How many of you guys would tune in to watch me outrun a bison? Half of you might join to see me get ran over, but haters are always going to hate, and I'm going to be number 88, whatever. But I'm gonna make that bison miss, right? So that's our local shout out, and so these are things that I'm just kind of scrolling through. I scroll just like everybody, right? I'm scrolling and I'm seeing stuff. I'm showing my wife. I was like, man, look at this. We need this for the podcast. We need this for our business. I pray every morning, before I start my day, and so right now I just fold up a T-shirt, and that's my prayer pillow. But then for months I've been saying, it's weird, but for months I'm like, man, I need to get me a prayer pillow. Like, I'm saying it to my head, and I'm gonna look on Amazon and see if I can find a prayer, and I never do. But this, I don't know, a couple days ago, it was over the weekend, I was like, okay, today is the day I'm gonna look for that prayer pillow, and and lo and behold, they have prayer pillows.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like Christian prayer pillows, and then meditation pillows, and all of that stuff. I mean, that's just good marketing right there. You know,
Yeah.
just like because I'm gonna, I guess, naturally gravitate towards the prayer pillow. I mean, the Christian prayer pillow that was made, you know, in like in a Muslim country, you know, and with Egyptian cotton, and it wasn't American made. But it's called a Christian prayer pillow, so I'm gonna buy it, and I'm gonna be happy with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Prayer pillows. How many of you guys have a prayer pillow? Do you have one?
No,
No prayer pillow. Do you even pray?
I do, but I use the carpet in our room.
Oh yeah, it's comfortable. I like whenever like if you're taking a shower in the morning and then I get a chance to go in the room and pray. I like it. That used to be my prayer spot before you joined me full time. I used to pray in the room, and man, it's so comfortable on your knees. But ever since you joined, I never even said this to you, but ever since you joined, I gave you the room, right, to pray, and then I'm praying over here in the shop, and it's concrete, and so my knees don't like it, and so I had to fold up a shirt so that I could be comfortable praying because I don't know if you guys are prayer people or whatever. I don't consider myself a prayer warrior or anything like that, but I got to talk to God early in the morning because there's a lot of things that are coming at me left and right, and I need to I need to get that myself centered right before I get going, and being comfortable plays a part, right? Because if it's hot, or I mean, imagine trying to pray inside of a storm, right? Most of us do that. That's whenever we pray, like, oh God, rescue me and save me because I'm in the middle of a storm. But that's not when you need to pray. I mean, yeah, you need to pray, but if you have a prayer life before the storm, you come into the storm calm, and you're not freaking out because the wind is blowing too hard, and the trees are getting knocked down all over the place. Kind of like whenever when was it, last week? Was it on Friday when we had the storm here?
Last weekend.
Last weekend?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, last weekend we had a storm here in Abilene, right? And I'm like, what am I gonna do? Like, fearing for my life, right? I'm just going to rest here and just. I said to myself, peace, be still, know that God is God, right? I kind of pictured myself on the boat, like Jesus, and like just chilling in the middle of the storm, because I've been through so many storms, and God has never failed me, right? He's always been there to protect me, and I'm not going to freak out just because a little old storm comes. Sure, we had some shingles get knocked off. We had some branches that fell all over the place, but those got picked up. We got someone that came out and looked at the roof, and it looks like we're going to be getting a new roof. So all is well here at the Red Alpha compound, right? And so, but yeah, 2 local shout outs. You're welcome. Connect with Alpha Aesthetics. Let them know that Ruben and Veronica with Red Alpha Custom Prints referred you to them. Remember to ask Abe about the Age Well program, and then sign up to be a member. Do all of that good stuff. Go to the Farmhouse Abbey. Let them know that we sent you there. Buy up all their coffee as well. And yeah, that's been our local shout out. What do you think?
I like it.
Did good?
Yes.
All right. So what did we do this weekend? What is the I was actually looking forward to watching the UFC fight, right? UFC 329, right, in Las Vegas. Headlining the fight was the notorious Conor McGregor and Max Blessed Holloway, right? I was going for Holloway all the way. Nothing against Conor McGregor, but for a while now, I knew that Conor McGregor wasn't going to be able to last inside of the UFC. One of the biggest things, this is my opinion, right? I'm just a guy who has been watching combat sports ever since I was a kid. I was watching boxing. I watched the UFC from the very beginning, whenever it was like, just cage fighting, right? I've been into this sport for a long time. I'm not a trained fighter. I've maybe done 2 classes, so I can probably still kick your butt. And so I know how to do. I know how to punch, and I know how to do a kick, and I think I know how to do a rear naked choke, and I can tell you every one of the submissions that the guys are doing, right? And so I'm like, I'm over here saying, oh man, he should have did this, he should have. I'm that guy, right? I'm that guy. And so I even have a shirt that says casual fan, but you could still catch these hands, right? Mm-hmm. Yes. So so I'm watching it from that perspective, right? And so Conor McGregor, I have 100% respect for the man as far as his business hustle. He's made all types of money. He, like Daniel Cormier says, the sport is better with him, right? And I just don't know if he belongs in the cage anymore, right? I think he's a great promoter. He brings the hype. He likes to talk a lot of trash, which is something that he introduced to the UFC, right? And so most of the guys that he fought early on, they weren't used to that. And so I had a theory that a lot of these UFC fighters, they were probably bullied, as kids, right? And so they were bullied, so their mom and dad put them in karate, put them in MMA, and so that way they wouldn't get bullied no more. But that little kid still lives inside you until you are able to face that inner kid that used to be bullied. It doesn't matter how trained you are, because you can only do that stuff inside of the ring, inside of training. You can't, now you got your hands are licensed to unalive people, right? You could do some damage. And so you just can't use those things on your regular person. You have to have self-control, right? And if you guys have followed me at all, I did I was a guest for a friend of mine who has passed away, James Cox, rest in peace, with Premier Martial Arts. And I talked a little bit about how I found it fascinating that skilled fighters, right, can often get their butt kicked by regular life, because the opponent doesn't have a body. He doesn't have any gloves on. You're not inside of a ring or an octagon, right? And it doesn't play by the rules, right? You don't have 3-minute rounds and that kind of deal, right? And so what happens, that life will put a skilled fighter in a situation that they're not used to. And in the fight world, you hear people saying, oh, he's pulling them into deep waters, right? And so that basically what that means is that the other fighter is making this guy feel uncomfortable. This guy, maybe he's a strong striker, maybe he's just a grappler. And so one thing that I remember from that podcast, James says, what do you do with the skilled striker? You kick him, you wrestle him, right? What do you do with the wrestler? You punch him. You kick them or whatever. And so you always want to be a well-rounded fighter, whenever you're facing someone inside the ring or the octagon. Well, life is the same thing. You have to be able to know how to fight the issues of life. And that is something, my friend, that I've been doing ever since I was a kid. I've been fighting ever since I was a kid, right? A lot of times I'm fighting things in my imagination, right? The Bible talks about casting down imaginations and its strongholds, and then putting it in the filter of the knowledge that you have of God, right? And so you got to know who God is, you got to know who you are, and you got to take these negative thoughts and you got to run them through that filter, so that way you can win the match, right? What does this have to do with Conor McGregor and the UFC fight? Well, I'm about to tell you, right? Something that I heard Dominic Cruz say, right? They were after the fight. It was Dominic Cruz, Michael Bisping, and a couple other guys, right? They were talking about the heart that Conor McGregor had, right? Like they were saying, well, he doesn't have to come back to fighting because he has all this money, right? And they're like, so it must be because he just the heart of a champion, wants to compete, and that's why he keeps coming back. It has nothing to do with the money, and so that's not entirely wrong. But something that Dominic Cruz said, he said, well, he thinks that Conor is coming back because fighting will save him from the money, right? Conor himself, admitted that the money got a hold of him, the lifestyle, and imagine having all the money in the world. I mean, some of us like me, I'd welcome that problem, right? But we really don't know. You don't know who you are until you get put in a situation, right? And so, all of the things that come with being a superstar, being a multimillionaire, having a brand that is just like he was one of the highest paid athletes in all of sports, not just mixed martial arts. And so that started to take a toll on him from the inside, right? So inside he was broken. And so Conor McGregor, he admitted this himself, right? And so he's trying to find himself, right? And so he recently gave his life to God, which I applaud him for that. Even though I made fun of him on a post, it's me being emotional. I'm like, I was hating on him just because he made $30 million in 60 seconds, right? I wish that I could make $30 million in 60 seconds. So some of my posts were hating on him, but the reality of it, I respect his hustle and the journey that he has started with his life with Jesus, right? But here's the thing: there's a lot of things that early Christians what they do, and you think that it's only for Christians who are down and out, like financially, right? But what I noticed is that Conor McGregor was blaming it pretty much on the devil, right? Well, you can't blame all that on the devil, right? I know that the Bible says I can do all things through Christ who gives me the strength, but you have a titanium rod in your left leg. You've been out of the octagon for 5 years. You have been burning the candle on both ends ever since you started making money, right? And you're going up against one of the best fighters that the UFC has today, right? That right there are three things that somebody, his pastor, should have said, hey, wait a minute. Yes, you can do all things through Christ who gives you the strength. But Conor, did you ever have the power to knock a middleweight or welterweight person out or even hurt them? Because who has he fought that were in the heavier weights, right? That proved that Nate Diaz, right? So he did good against Nate Diaz, but his punches weren't as effective as whenever he was fighting the flyweights and the lighter weight fighters, right? Usually he was the bigger fighter in that lighter weight, right? And so fighters do that all the time. They cut down weight, and if you're a natural, 175, you're walking around 175, and you're able to cut weight, and you're able to compete, in the 145, weight class, it gives you an advantage because once you hydrate, right? Now you're back to 175, and this guy is a natural 145er. Well, it's like, it's David and Goliath, right? But once you start fighting at the higher weights, right, it's a little bit different because now you're fighting guys who may be naturally 200 pounds, right? And so Max Holloway, whenever he was younger, he was able to cut down, but he was naturally bigger. And so he walks around, 175, 185 is his natural weight. And he was cutting down 40 pounds. Can you believe that? I can't even lose 20 pounds in a year. Well, these guys going to fight camp and they're losing 20, 30 pounds. I need that recipe, right? It's starvation probably and dehydration. But, that's my whole thing with the UFC, with the main event is that, that's what I saw with Conor McGregor coming back. I hope that he figures it out, right? It's a journey, right? You just cannot give your life to God and everything's going to be all right, and it's just interesting to me because, you would think that having all the money in the world would be the answer to all of your problems, right? But they're not. And even though I wouldn't mind finding out, right?
Let me test that theory.
Let me test that theory. I've never been able to test it, like in my own life. I can just say it doesn't, but I've never really tested it. So, God, if you're listening, go ahead and test me, and you've given me grace, and so I will say I'm sorry, and you got to be reminding me, and then we'll move on to the next day, right? But besides the main event, obviously we were disappointed in that. We're like, man, we got all of this buffalo wings from Buffalo Wild Wings, fries. We had it all. My wife had some rewards, bonus points or whatever you call it, and so we had the spread, and so we were eating, and then I was like, man, what was that? All of that for 60 seconds, and but the co-main event, Patty Pimblett, he submitted Saint Denis, and I called that wrong. I thought that Saint Denis. I thought Saint Denis was going to be too much for Patty, but Patty submitted him in the first round via Darce choke, and so that guy Saint Denis, he just shot for the takedown, and Patty like got him with what looked to be a guillotine, and then they scrambled, and it turned out to be a choking him out, and it was pretty cool because they actually spinned around, and Patty didn't lose. Like every time that Saint Denis was trying to turn out of the choke, he was actually like getting caught in a different choke even deeper. And by that time, it was like there's nothing you can do. He choked him unconscious, and so the referee like did his hand like that, and he was gone. And Patty is back, right? And I like Patty for the excitement, right? I was against him when he went with Justin Gaethje, and I was right there. I actually thought that Michael Chandler might be I thought Michael Chandler was going to be a good test, and he passed that test. Even though they put him up against Tony Ferguson, that's not the same Tony Ferguson that we all know and love. And Justin Gaethje actually changed Tony Ferguson. Right? Tony Ferguson used to be a straight up, what's the word? What's the word that I can use on a live stream? Right? He was the type of person that can unalive you. He was a savage, right? And but man, Justin Gaethje beat the savage out of him. Now he is docile. He is calm and patient. And that's something that life will do to you, right? You think that you're all strong and you got this chip on your shoulder. I'm talking about myself. You got this chip on your shoulder, and then you start a business, and then it punches the savage out of you. You got to dig deep, and you got to find that like they say, that dog. You got to find that dog in you, right? Or else you're gonna get knocked unconscious. You're gonna have you're gonna have brain injuries, right? But life will do that to you. Owning your own business will do that to you, right? It'll take you into deep waters if you let it. And so you have to be able to find that thing that's inside of you, the reason why. If you're like me, your grandkids, your kids, they're your reasons why you do that. For your wife, your husband, you got something to prove, right? Whatever it is, you want to be, a shining light in your community, whatever the case may be. You have to be able to be able to access that at any time and then get after it, because it always seems like there's a force that's against you, right? You can call it the devil, you can call it whatever you want, right? And you both could have easily juked that Boston.
Yeah. Bison. That's
from Bruce. Oh yeah, that's right, Bruce. I think we could have. We want to make sure that we continue to be those type of people, because I definitely don't want to go to Yellowstone and get hit by a bison. That'd be crazy. But yeah, so you don't want life to take you, in an area that you can't fight from, right? Because it'll try to do that. It'll try to do that. And if you don't have something on the inside that is that can light a fire inside of you at any moment, You need to figure that out, right? And then what happens is that maybe in the beginning, it's the reason why you want to do it, but you don't have the courage, you don't have the experience, you don't have the drive or the discipline, whatever it is, to actually create a spark. And then once you create that spark, you got to fan that thing into flame, and it's just the way that you got to do it. And so sometimes it's just having your better half right beside you on the podcast. I'm better with her beside me. That's just the way it is. Last week she was the producer, and she was kind of doing that, and I'm like, I just want her beside me. She doesn't even need to talk. Just sit there and look pretty, and I feel more secure because she is one of the reasons why I do anything, right? And just to spend time with her. One of the goals that I had when we first started business, and is I wanted to be working beside my wife, and not I looked at it like I'm saving her from the rat race, right? From corporate America. Even though I had to take her hostage because she was perfectly fine inside corporate America, and it hasn't been exactly like I had hoped it'd been, right? But as far as I go, I'm happy, right? Because she is beside me, right? And so we're gonna do great things together just because we're beside each other, and then who knows? Today may be the day that we step into the blessing that we've been praying for. I look at it like every day that you're consistent, you're doing the right thing, you're trying to be a good person. If you're in business, you try to do good business, you try to do the right things, right? But all of these steps, right, are kind of working a big old bucket of blessings, right, that eventually is going to tip it over, and then all of those blessings are going to come into your life, and you're not going to, it's going to be God opening up the windows of heaven and pouring out a blessing that you don't have room enough to store, right? How many of you guys want that type of blessing? I want the type of blessing that I don't have room enough to store. Well, this morning, what I was thinking is like, okay, so maybe it might be a good idea to make room, right? Because if God blesses you right now, are you going to be ready for the blessing, or are you going to drown in it? Is the very thing that you've been praying about going to end up drowning you, right? So that's something to think about there too. So that's our weekend of the UFC fight. There were some other good fights that were on there, but the main event and the co-main event were really the ones that I was looking to tune into, and those, I mean, it was the excitement, the build up was good. I was disappointed in the main event, but other than that, we're looking forward to the next one, right? So we what else did we do? Well, recently we finished a show, right? And it has become one of our favorite shows, right? It's the show on MGM called From, right? What do you think about that show?
I like it. There's a lot of mystery behind that show, and so it gets you thinking, what the people that are there, how they got there. We talk about it a lot. Our theories of how that happened to come upon that town and everything, and so I like it. It just gets us to think.
Yeah, it's a good show. And so for those of you guys who have never watched the show, and maybe you're just coming across our feed here, you're scrolling and you're like, oh, these guys, what are they talking about? We're talking about a show on MGM called From. Harold Perrineau is the main actor. I don't know any of the other actors, but Harold Perrineau, for those of you guys who know him, he was Link in the Matrix rebooted or Reloaded, and so that's where I knew him. He was also one of the main characters in the show Lost back in the day, and so when I saw that he was there, I was like, okay, this is a good reason to watch it because he's a great actor, right? And so the show is about a group of people from all over, I don't want to say the world, but all over the United States, that they all come to this town called From. Now the town, we really don't know where the town is. It's not a real town. It is either in an alternate universe. Maybe the people died. Maybe it's a form of purgatory. Maybe something happened, to where they are in the hospital in a coma. We do not know.
Those are all the theories that we've
Yeah.
talked about.
Those are all the theories, right? And so the one thing that all of the people that come to the town have in common is that they're all going somewhere on a trip, right? And so they're going somewhere on a trip, and along the road there is a tree that is knocked over along the road, and then they get off to see what's going on. They see some crows, right? They see some crows, and then they try to go around it, and then they end up in the town front, right? And so if you go, once you see the tree, it doesn't matter if you go backwards, it doesn't matter if you go forward, you are in the town and you can't get out. You just end up going circles, and you're just going to kind of end up where you started, right? And so that is the story is about these people from the real world, if you want to call it, entering into this town called From, and the people that are in the town are trying to survive through the night, because there are things that come out at night. I don't know if they're vampires. I don't know if they got curses. I don't know exactly what's going on.
They just call them monsters.
They just call them monsters, right? And so they kind of resemble vampires in a way, right? But they're kind of humanish before, so it's like it's a little different, right? And so they are definitely under some sort of curse, right? And they sleep all day. They come out at night. These are the monsters, right? And then they terrorize the townspeople, right? And so in the beginning, the townspeople just run and hide and try to make it through the night. But then whenever Boyd, which is Harold Perrineau's character, he comes in and he had some military experience. Shout out to the military guys. So his job was to go into a situation and make it work, right? He would do damage control. He would go into a what do you call it? It's just a crap storm, wherever it's a crap storm, and get it functioning right? And so he was the guy that you would call for that, right? So he'd go into these situations and get them streamlined, right? Make them efficient, right? He would help them establish their SOPs, right? Get their website running right, whatever. That's what he would do, right, in the military. And so when they brought him in, one of the first episodes is he's talking to two of the leaders of the town, which is Father Cautry and then Donna, right? And he's like, well, what are you guys doing? Is that all you do? Or you just kind of hide and pray? And the father's like, well, that's all really that we can do, because we're just trying to survive through the night, and then in the day we're just kind of like freaked out, I guess, And then he says, no. He says, what you need to do is you need to organize these people, and you need to show them that they can't hide. You got to rotate. You can't hide in the same places. You got to pool your resources, and basically you need to get your crap together, and I'm going to show you how. And so Boyd becomes the leader and the sheriff of the town, right? And then you start getting introduced to some of the other people that bring different sides, different personalities and different belief systems into the show. And that's one thing that I like. I like that there are different cultures being represented in the spiritual beliefs that they have. One of them is the talismans, right? So the talismans, if you notice my shirt. My shirt says I'm her talisman, and hers says I'm his taliswoman, right? So a talisman, if you guys do any type of research, whether you're Christian or not, I think that it's important for you to understand different cultures and different belief systems, and still be secure in what you believe in. If you're the type of person that you start researching this and you become that, or you research that and then you forget about this thing right here, then you never really were rooted in what you believed in, right? You were just kind of going in whatever the religion of the week is, right? But I've always had in my opinion, a healthy curiosity for other cultures. And whenever they started talking about the talismans. I did a little search on it, right? And so a talisman basically is like a lucky charm. It's a an object, right? That has symbols on it, right? That some cultures believe has some sort of magical power. It can be one to for protection, one for blessings, different things like that. But the talisman is just basically something that you can view as as an object, for protection. In this case, what they would do, Boyd found a bag full of talismans, which were rocks that had different, like inscriptions on it, different symbols on the rocks, and because he believed that it was something that held some sort of magical power, and the reason why is that he was hiding from a monster one day, and he fell into this not a tree but like a I don't know, like a cave almost, that was covered with with some leaves and all that, and inside of there he found the talisman. So he basically assumed that the talismans were the things that protected him. So what he did is he brought those talismans back to town, and he said, "Look, I survived the night, and it's because these talismans. So hang these up in the front of your door, right? And the monsters can't get you, right?" And so the townspeople started to believe in the talismans.
Mm-hmm.
Do the talismans have power or not? I don't know, right? But when you believe that in the show, right? When you believe that it has power, guess what? It has power,
Mm-hmm.
right? Back in the day, back in the 80s and the 90s, they used to have these things called prayer cloths. I don't know if you remember that, right? But so what happened is that you'd have a preacher, right? That was, in your mind, he was anointed, right? Anointed by God. He would pray over a cloth, right? And they would sell those cloths to people. It was, it could be whatever you want to be it, but they were there and people were buying them up. Prayer cloths. Back then, even in the 90s, like they were like, send your prayer requests to me, and we're gonna pray. We're gonna stack them up on right here on the table, all of your prayer requests, and we're gonna pray on. We're gonna pray on them. And so you would send your prayer requests, to these pastors because you're someone who needs prayer. You perceive that man to be a man of God, and to be operating under the anointing of God, and so your belief in that person could have brought you healing, right? And so I've always been fascinated by that because I've seen people go up to the altar and get healed with one touch. And then I've seen other people have to walk out their healing through prayer and fasting, right? Through changing your lifestyle, right? And I happen to be one of those guys that are more practical, right? And so yes, I pray. Yes, I speak healing. Yes, I believe in stuff like this. But I know that life, in my life in particular, is choice driven. And so I start to look at my life and I say, okay, am I making the right choices,
Mm-hmm.
right? I don't pray for God to make me healthy. I try to get myself in the gym. Let's start there, right? And whenever I was actually in ministry, I used to tell people that's probably why I'm not in ministry anymore, right? I'm just not called for it. But well, that type of ministry. But I would say, hey, before we try to talk about calling fire down from heaven, let me see you be able to push your plate. Let me see how you manage hunger, right? Let's see how you can fast. Because back then, fasting was hard. Whenever the church was like, okay, we're gonna go on a fast, I've never been more hungry in my life. Like, okay, today's the day that I'm gonna fast. I would just fall asleep, right? I'm like, if I'm just going to sleep, I'm not eating. Technically, I'm fasting, but I'm not gonna eat for the day or for half the day. And man, I was so hungry, and all I could think about was how hungry I was. I wasn't doing anybody any good. I was just saying, "Oh God, I'm hungry. Take this hunger away from me," and nobody was blessed because of that, because I didn't know how to fast. and I was weak. I was weak. But then we start looking into intermittent fasting, and we start learning how to fast, right? And so we've gone on longer fasts. It's been a while. I think the longest you fasted was like 5 days, was it?
Yeah, it was 3 days.
3 days. And so we both hit 3 days. I've done that. We've done a bunch of 24-hour fasts. We do like it almost seems like a 12-hour fast every day, even though we eat like crap. And every now and then we'll do it longer just because we got work, so it'll be like a 16-hour fast sometimes, and we won't eat breakfast or lunch, and we won't eat till dinner that night, and so we'll do the OMAD diet, right? And so not without even doing it, but the hunger doesn't really it doesn't really control me as much as it used to. I used to be controlled by hunger, right? It's like, okay, what am I going to eat for breakfast? What am I going to eat for lunch? And you revolve your whole world, your whole life, your whole day around food, right? And then you after that you got to take a nap and do all of this stuff, right? And so, but your belief systems, right? Your belief systems. And so the show, I got to get back to the show because I'm like have no parameters there, right? But so the show is about these different belief systems, right? And people are coming in and they're trying to figure it out. Even though there wasn't a Bible in the whole town, that's weird. They're going after the Christian faith, right? Because there wasn't a Bible. So Father Kotri had to write down some of the scriptures that he knew because he was a priest, right? Some of the scriptures that he knew by memory, and he wrote them down so that way there can be a copy of the Word of God. So guess what? You were called to be a living epistle, right? You never know whenever you're going to be in a situation to where you're going to be traveling somewhere, you're going to come across a tree, and then you're going to teleport into an alternate city called From, and you're not going to have your Bible with you. Then what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You don't have your Bible where you can turn in. There's no cell phones where you can go to the Bible app. Mm-hmm. What are you going to do whenever you are tired and weary? What's the scripture that you're going to use, right? That's going to reinforce rest, right? When you're losing your mind and you're suffering from anxiety, what is the scripture that you are going to use in that town, right? When you see monsters running at you and you feel fear, what is the scripture that you're going to use that's going to help you in that situation, right? You are a living epistle. You're basically a page or a word from the Word of God, and you're living and you're active, right? And so sometimes the only Bible that people are going to read are, right here in this podcast, right? So if you're suffering from anxiety, the Bible says to be anxious for nothing, but in all things through prayer and supplication, make your petitions be made known to God, right? You got to pray. You got to give your petition, right? You got to bring it before God, right? Come boldly before the throne of grace, where you can find grace and obtain mercy. And so these are the things that you could do. Whenever you're feeling fearful, you were not given a spirit of fear, right? But one of power and of sound mind, right? Sound mind is a big thing, right? I thank God that I woke up with my sound mind, right? And so I'm in my right mind. And so as long as I listen to my right mind, I'm going to make good decisions, right? And so if you put me in the town of From, after I freak out the first nights because I'm not like used to that, right? Hopefully I can revert back to my foundation, right? Which is plenty of reading, plenty of reading the Word, plenty of seeing, the Word play out in my life, right? And plenty of things like that, right? That are my talismans. They are the things that I turn to whenever I'm feeling outside of myself, right? And so I like that. Even Fatima, she was building a golem, right? Which is just a symbol of strength in her culture and protection as well. And so maybe we'll see that golem come to life, right? And so just different things that people do whenever they're feeling fear. And I think that might be kind of the underlying theme of the show, is that it's not, you know, the absence of fear, right? It is, how do you react to fear when it shows up? And you see people from all walks of life, and they're trying to, you know, like you got a police officer. I'm going to bring order. I'm going to bring order into this thing. And then whenever that belief system falls apart, she starts to feel, you know, suicidal, right? Because the thing that she believed in didn't have no strength in this town, right? And so that's whenever you find out if your belief system is something that's going to carry you through, or if it's just BS, right? What's up? Oh yeah, we're still going. We are still going. I gotta get back on TikTok. He gave me this puzzle. That I need to do, because I guess I'm a little long-winded, right? And so, you know, your belief system, right? Whenever you end up in a town like From, you're gonna find out if your belief system has power or if it was just a bunch of BS, right? BS, belief system. That's funny. Right? That's funny. And so you find out if it's just BS or not, right? Whenever you're going through the storm, or whenever you find yourself in the town of From. And so every now and then, we like this show so much, I could talk about it for days. We talk about it all the time, every new episode. So we just finished up season 4. We're getting ready for season 5.
In 5 years.
And actually, I think it's going to come out in April. Hopefully it's not, you know, like Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones, you'd have to wait 2-3 years before the next season, right? From, they're already filming season 5. And supposedly it's going to come out April, May of next year, which is not too bad. Not too bad. So we'll have some answers, right? But how many of you guys have watched the show From? You know, maybe you got some theories. Put them in the comments. Let us know what you think about. I don't care if you want to call me later and talk about it. I talked to one of my friends. I said, man, we should sit down and just talk about From. You know, just talk about all the theories. You know, because he likes to talk about shows too, and so. We could do a Showmates podcast, you know, just a standoff, right? But every now and then we'll watch a show that kind of we like so much, and it ends up becoming one of our Showmates shows. So these right here, this is kind of the prototype. You know, really, I think that we might just touch it up a little bit and add our Showmates logo, and it's going to be on our website. And for those of you guys who don't know, you can go to our website, which is www.redacp.com. You can click on t-shirts, look up Showmates, and you'll see some of the shirts that we have that are designed and inspired by some of our favorite shows. Showmates is one of the ideas that I had several years ago whenever I realized that my wife is my showmate. So we're soulmates, we were swole-mates when we were going to the gym. We were, you know, all of these mates, right? But we found that we like to watch shows together. And so she became my showmate. And so whenever we watch a show that's really good, that we really like it, you know, we pick and choose, right? It's not every show. But we'll make a design for it, call it Showmates, and then we'll put it on our website. So we try not to do any copyright stuff, right? So this says, you know, I'm her talisman, but we don't have any characters or anything like that, you know, on the design, because I don't want to get into none of that stuff, right? I'm not saying that we don't have none of that stuff, but we never done it, but I try not to, right? So the Showmates brand, if you go and browse our website, show us some love, buy yourself a t-shirt, you know, take a picture or a selfie of you wearing the shirt, let us know and tag us on social media, so that way we can talk about you on the next podcast, right? And so one of the things that I wanted to close out with, right, is what we're trying to do with the podcast here and the behind the X's and O's. I wanted to just give a little time to the Behind the X's and O's show. Every Wednesday of this month, we're having a new guest that is going to come on and just be a guest, and we're going to have a casual conversation about their story. And you know, if you've seen any of the posts that we make, I firmly believe that everybody's story matters, right? And so if you read the blog post today, you can see that it's not so much about the story that matters, but it's you telling it in your own words, right? Because you know there are a lot of print shops here in the area and throughout the state of Texas that are bigger than us, that are smaller than us, that are the same size and all that stuff, competing for the same customers, right? So the product isn't necessarily the thing that separates you from everybody else. What makes you different is your story and being able to tell your story in your own words, right? Nobody can tell my story like I can, right? And so I'm telling it from my perspective, and I love perspective storytelling. You get some of that in Game of Thrones, where it was like you get you know, part of the story is from Jon Snow, and part of it's from Daenerys, and part of it's from you know, this person over here. Perspective storytelling, right? And so that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to bring that type of storytelling that you usually see in shows or you usually see in books, and we're trying to bring it to our local community. Because there are people in our local community that's got stories that maybe you need to hear, that maybe somebody out there needs to hear, right? Maybe it's not my story that inspires you, but maybe one of the guests that we have. Like this coming week, we're going to have Mr. Michael Casillas with Graybeard Entertainment. He's a local musician. He's a friend, longtime customer. He's going to be talking about behind the scenes, you know, stories that go on in the local live music scene. We're going to talk about venues. We're going to talk about, you know, some of the challenges that he may face in booking shows for himself and booking shows for some of the bands or the local musicians that are connected with his Graybeard Entertainment. And so if you're into live music, or maybe you're a venue, or maybe you're just a guy like me that wants to hear stories being told by the people who are living it, right? Like Pee Wee Herman, I don't have to watch the movie because I lived it. I lived it, right? And so those are the stories that we're trying to tell, and those are the stories of the guests that we're trying to let you hear. So tune in this coming Wednesday at 6 p.m. We're going to have our guest Mike Casillas with Graybeard Entertainment. He's going to join us, and that's what we're trying to do. The Red Alpha Mugshot Podcast, we're trying to talk a little bit about our lives, some of the things that we're going on, the behind the X's and O's. We're going to talk a little bit about ourselves, but a lot about other people who are out there living the stories that you need to hear. Man, that's it right there. But that's it for now. We're signing off with another live episode of the Red Alpha Mugshot Monday podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Tune in next week at 9 o'clock, and make sure that you tune in this coming Wednesday at 6 p.m. with our live stream of the Behind the X's and O podcast. You got anything?
No.
Ruben and Veronica, out.
Red Alpha out.